Welcome to Truth is Freedom. I'm Dennis Cummins, the pastor of Experience Church. I'm so glad that you're here. And today we are speaking with Danielle Pentsak. She is the Cascade Director for Turning Point USA. That's Alaska, Washington, and Oregon. That basically North Korea of Washington. And that's what we're dealing with. We're in our part 2 series. Daniela, thank you for being on. Thank you for what you're doing. I know we've talked a little bit about what Turning Point USA does. Just remind us the 3 things that you really focus on in trying to empower students to understand.
Yeah, so what the 3 main principles that Turning Point stands for and what we try to empower students to understand is the values of capitalism, promoting the concept of individual liberty, and protecting the Constitution. So we're trying to encourage and empower students to speak about those values and to stand for them on the high school campus.
So what we're seeing, and I just kind of want to jump into this because we're so fresh in the concept. They seem, the left or the progressive left, whatever you want to say, those that stand against truth, they seem hell-bent on creating mountains out of nothing, demonizing just the simple things that are obvious, like 2 genders. No, there's not 2 genders. There's many genders. You can change gender. And, now they passed that law here, House Bill 5599, that if you're not aware, if a parent doesn't embrace a child's mindset that they want to change genders or what have you, it's considered child abuse, and CPS will take them out, and you'll lose your parental rights, and the state will help their transition and pay for it. Yep. We'll pay for it as a state, taxpayers. And we actually were very, very involved in heading that initiative. We weren't heading it, but we helped launch it and help, drive that down. But I was shocked that we didn't come up with enough signatures. I was absolutely shocked.
Yeah.
I thought this is going to be a shoo-in. But once again, it's another diagnostic. It's like taking blood pressure and saying, we definitely got a bigger problem than we thought, because I thought it was going to be a no-brainer, but it wasn't. I was shocked how many people didn't want to get involved. We had petition signing. So many people had petition signing. And I was shocked how many people said, well, that's not true. Or they would say, I don't want to get involved. Or no, that's not us. And these are the indifferent ones. They're not the progressive ones that, no, we support transgender change. No, these are the people that were just like, I don't want to get involved. I don't want my name recorded on that petition because somebody might find out.
Right.
Come after me. And so I say all that to say that the left seems like they're winning for a long time in the state of Washington, but it doesn't take the fuel out of my fire, because I would rather pastor in this state than any other state, because I know I can make a difference here.
Yeah,
through the power of
it's
Christ.
needed.
It's needed. And what you're doing is so needed. And it's kind of like, your work that you're doing in the state of Washington compared to in Oregon and Alaska, compared to other places in the nation that are maybe red states, Bible Belt states, things like that. Dude, they're living life large, and you're up here in war, so to speak,
War zone,
against a very, very seasoned adversary. And so what are some of the things that you're seeing, the trends? We were talking about, they're vilifying white men. They're, of course, we know about the transgender movement, all those things. But what are you seeing?
Well, as far as my activism is concerned and what it is I do, schools are, and even churches, some churches to some degree, they don't want anything to do with what Turning Point stands for, who we are, or even let me into the school. I've been getting direct confrontation from some schools, even telling me, not to show up. And they treat me like a threat sometimes, simply because I just want to pass out free constitutions or register a few voters, try to get kids involved in civic engagement.
You're such an extremist.
Right, exactly. And so, just because that in and of itself shows me that they're terrified of the truth, like what you're saying. They're terrified of common sense. And again, it's not like I'm going in there telling them that, transgenders are valid. I'm just passing out constitution booklets. In fact, I'm not trying to bring in incendiary topics when I, try to start chapters.
Right.
I'm just trying to encourage conservative voices. And even if a student isn't conservative, just give them a constitution booklet, register them to vote, just get them educated and communally involved, and that's all it takes. But the thing is, the schools don't want that, especially public education institutions here in Washington State don't want that, and that's been primarily the challenge that I've having to face is just simply getting into a school.
I'm confused now. If somebody wants to start a transgender club, if they want to start a Satanist club, right? I mean, there's no pushback. Oh,
none.
Yeah, come on.
None.
We don't dare speak against any of that. But to embrace personal freedoms, capitalism, and the Constitution,
exactly,
you're vilified.
Exactly. I'm telling most of these schools that I've contacted, they most like 9 times out of 10, they're going to have an LGBT club. 100%, even Satanists, like you said, exactly. So they're only inclusive insofar as it's concerned of their side of the political aisle, I suppose, or their side of the ideological aisle. But a pro-America club is just simply not allowed. In fact, they could be probably even considered terrorists for all we know, I'm sure. And in the Seattle School District, absolutely, probably. So, the fact that I can't even get into school, I think, is very telling of the environment that we're facing right now.
Well, they're scared, and so they know that they have to lock down any truth that comes in, just like communism.
Yeah.
Right? They have to lock it down. You can't speak personal freedoms, capitalism. I do want to be clear, though. We're not talking about crony capitalism, pro-crony, which is basically what our political leaders are experiencing, right? We have people that are leaving office as billionaires on government salary. How is that possible? Crony capitalism, right?
Right.
No, that's evil, right?
Absolutely.
But capitalism itself says, and the Bible says, and I preached on this, God's not a socialist. And I actually upset some people. And I'm like, why don't you read your Bible?
Okay.
Because it's like, the Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
No, I understand social programs. I understand people on hard times.
Sure.
We're not against that. And we help people out. But we understand that you teach people to fish.
Yeah.
To ensure them a life of success. And so that means that you take accountability for yourself. That means that I don't expect to work at McDonald's and make $25 an hour. We just got to have some common sense back to, you get paid what you're worth of what you're bringing to society.
Yeah, it's promoting the idea of self-sufficiency, right?
Yeah.
What they're trying to stamp out as early as possible in these students is the idea that they're not self-sufficient or they don't have to be. So, and that's why, and of course we promote the concept of supporting small businesses, American-made organizations and businesses. Absolutely. And Charlie Kirk himself has even spoken on this. It's for that traditional values of capitalism that we promote. Definitely not crony capitalism. Yeah. Absolutely not. But I think that's another common sense stance I think everyone can agree with.
Sure.
It's that idea of self-sufficiency that we're trying to promote and encourage early on. That also goes hand in hand with individual liberty, individual identity, and that, you are born to be who God made you to be. And so that you could perform that in the best way possible. And so those are the things that we stand for, and clearly, public school institutions and just education in general in Washington State don't want that from happening. So
well, and let's think about the agendas that were placed upon us when we talk about capitalism, okay? Lockdowns, okay? In the state of Washington, Oregon, New Mexico, and California, in Minnesota, Michigan, New York, right? All the small businesses were absolutely pummeled.
Yeah.
You can't open, you can't do business, shut down, but you can go to Walmart, you can go to big box stores, Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon, you can fully function through Amazon. And people think, oh, magically, stuff just shows up my door. It doesn't involve people working.
Exactly.
Right? That's safe. Costco's safe. Home Depot's safe. Lowe's is safe. Actually, Lowe's and Home Depot, they had record sales, okay?
Wow.
So everybody is making bank at the big box stores. Mom and pop stores, small businesses are being destroyed because capitalism is seen as evil in the eyes of the progressive left or the left. There's no progressive left anymore. If you lean left, you're left. And so this is why I think it's so important to help people understand, start a business owners. I have a friend that pastors down in Florida, Miami area. And he immigrated from Cuba. And much of his church are immigrants, South American immigrants and Islander immigrants. And there are more business owners in his church people that have immigrated here, started businesses and are doing great than they actually work for employers. Because they understand the power of a small business owner compared to coming from a communist country that they came from, whether it's Cuba or Panama or some of these other crazy places that were ruled by that. And so immigrants get it, especially from South America and Cuba and all. They understand it, but yet people that are born here, they don't.
Oh, yeah. My parents, they immigrated here from Ukraine, or at the time it was the Soviet Union. So especially my father was, in my formative years, they taught me early on to, embrace the idea that you should be self-sufficient and you shouldn't rely on the government to do things for you. Yeah. Obviously, coming from the Soviet Union.
And don't trust the government.
Yeah, exactly. Not to trust the government. So I was raised with this early on, which probably explains my ideological trajectory right now. But yeah, it's so true that, immigrants or people immigrate here, or even first generation, second generation, it's still very much important to them. And they appreciate what America stands for. Yes. And they appreciate the fact that we do have these freedoms that are outlined in the U.S. Constitution. And it's such a shame that people that do have, multiple generations they've been living here, they don't understand that, and they are becoming largely complacent, and they don't really appreciate. They don't have the gratitude to understand where it is that they live. And, the United States does have issues, of course. What country doesn't? All countries are formed by fallen people. So It makes sense. But let's be honest, compared to the rest of the world, the United States is the best one to live in. And leftists are... And we see it already reflected in education. They're teaching that, that the United States and the formation of it was a complete crime, and it was built on the backs of victims. And, of course, there's going to be issues with the development of any nation. But we also have to come to realize that this is the best nation that we have on the planet right now. And we should probably maintain it that way, and to be proud of who we are. Because no nation is built perfectly. There's no utopia in this world. You know what I mean? And we should be appreciative of what the United States has done and will do in the future.
That's right. Well, you think about the United States, its formation. Here we are today. It's been the most benevolent society. It's been the number one center of missions around the world. Exactly. Up till recent. South America's beat us now. Brazil.
Oh, really?
Is sending more missionaries than America now. But what I'm thinking is we should start an exchange student program to like North Korea, Iran, some of these countries to where people can have their eyes opened. Yeah. I do direct work in Nepal, and it's a communist country. Yeah. And what we have to face, what we have to fight there, the discrimination. They talk about discrimination here. They talk, critical race, blah, blah, blah. Right. And I'm thinking, you have no idea what a caste system is. Yeah, exactly. You're born into this caste, you can only do this job. That's it. You can't rise above. And that's why they hate Americans, and that's why they hate what we bring to the table, because it goes against it and it exposes their lies. And then people, talk about, what's the racism where it's established in what's the term they're using now?
Critical race theory?
No, not critical race theory. Systemic racism, like, our systems are built on racism. And it's like, no, let me take you to some countries that have systemic racism. There's racism in this country. There's racism, but systemic? No. Show Absolutely it to me. Not, yeah. Like Charlie Kirk says, point it out. Exactly. What system is holding you back because of your skin color? Right. Or because of your name. And so that's why it's so vital that this information gets out to people. And I'm shocked at how many people are oblivious. They don't want to know, because if I don't know, I'm not responsible. I just want to pay attention to, do I buy a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas today? Right. That's all I want to focus on. I can't do anything else. I'm so frustrated with my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And exactly, you can't point to, and in the legal system in the United States today, there is not a law out there that excludes Black people, women, or any minority from applying anywhere, from achieving the same level of success as anyone else. And what leftists have been doing is trying to get ahead of the curve and try to instill in our minds and tell us, and to make us psychologically dependent on the idea that this is out of our control. Even if we affect policy, it's not going to improve people's lives. They're trying to guilt us and trying to guilt us beyond just like what has been done in the past, but they're trying to guilt us just by being born in a certain skin color. So it's reversing that trend, of the past where we did have actual issues with racism.
Yep.
They're trying, at the end of the day, they're just trying to restart a different form of racism. And unfortunately that's what it is. It's anti-white racism. And they'll say, well, there is no anti-white racism. Absolutely there is. There's white males can't go to school without being guilted for being who they are. And like I've said previously. So they're just trying to guilt us into believing that, we should be ashamed of ourselves for just being born in a particular way. And that's, I think, the cruelest that they could do right now to kids. And so that's why it's important to encourage kids to stand up against that. And like I'd mentioned, we are seeing more populations of young men trend more conservative. So one can only hope that will change. But like you've mentioned, the complacency is so strong here in Washington State. I can't speak for the rest of the United States, but at least here, from what I see and what I personally experienced, it's really discouraging sometimes because there are of course parents that they want to benefit their kids' lives, and most people think this way, I guess, but they want life on easy mode. They don't want to directly get involved, and unless something directly hurts their child, maybe they're not going to touch it. And we've been seeing a trend of parents move out of Washington State, especially after like 5599 passed, which I'm also surprised you didn't get any signature, like as many signatures. That's terrifying, actually. But after like that, parents are moving out, and understandable. I understand they only want to seek the benefit of their own family, but it's killing Washington State. The less conservative parents we have here, the less direct action and less people we have to get involved in the movement. So, but we can only do what we can, I suppose.
Well, we had a cleansing of our State Department, if I could say it, not the federal State Department, but all the departments in the state of Washington were cleansed of a certain ideology, and it started with the mandates. You do this or else you lose your job. So what it means is you become subservient or you're gone.
Yeah, good way to put it.
And so we've cleansed much of our state agencies. And by doing that, it is similar to what Obama did with all the federal judges that he appointed. So then when we confronted election fraud, not one case was heard. It was all thrown out by those liberal federal judges that were appointed by Obama. So they're thinking 6 steps ahead, and most conservatives are focused on me, myself, and I. So currently we're looking at Bob Ferguson, which launched the domestic violent extremist bill last year. And basically, if you're not familiar with the DVE, basically if what we're talking about right on this conversation, we would be considered domestic violent extremists because you're an extremist and you're a violent extremist if you speak that there's only 2 genders. You're a violent extremist if you don't believe that there's critical race theory issues. So we're sitting here, and now there's going to be a reinitiation of the DVEs bill coming the first of the year. And he worked very closely with the FBI. He worked very closely with Homeland Security. They punked the numbers because they're not telling us the data that they used to get the numbers to say this is justified. But the problem is if he is able to get this through, which he doesn't have to pass it through legislation, he just needs the budget. He can implement it through the State Department of Health. So the Department of Health will then come in and say, you're a danger to public safety. You're a health risk. And then they will take control of you, however they choose. So what I'm saying is we're not just dealing with issues that we need to vote on. They're trying to circumvent anything that we vote, and then they have complete and ultimate control. This is why we need to do what we need to do right now while we can. And what you're doing is so critical to do what we can do right now and educate people while we can.
And listen, I understand like people, especially conservatives, they tend to be more, just me, myself, and I'm going to focus on my family. They're much more family oriented. So the problem with the left is that a lot of them don't have families. So they try to make families out of other people. And they try to indoctrinate other people's kids. But The conservatives tend to be more self-involved, which is virtuous, but it's not getting the job done. You know what I mean? We need to be a little bit more communal. We need to be a little bit more community oriented.
Yep.
And, you would think with these things happening, more people would get plugged in, but it's an uphill battle. It's going to take time to get parents and younger people involved, but it is possible. That's why Turning Point does what it does and what it is that I do. It is vital and it's important, especially in this region. And there are young people that are passionate about it. They're out there. It's just a matter of finding them and mobilizing them and giving them the resources that they need.
Well, Danielle, I'm so proud of you for what you're doing, what you're standing for. And let's remind people how they connect with you.
Yes. So my primary email is Danielle with an E at the end, .Pentsak. That's PENTSAK @tpusa.com. Once again, if you have questions about what it is that I do, if you want a student that wants to get involved, just contact me through that email. I'll respond as soon as I can.
So I want to encourage the viewers, if you have young people, if you have a youth group that you want her to come and engage and help them understand their rights and help them be empowered, this would be an incredible asset to have in your corner. So Daniela, thank you so much for being on. Yeah. Thank you for helping truth become freedom in other people's lives.
Well, thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure to speak, and thank you for doing what it is that you do and getting people involved as well.
We're honored. Thank you. Well, that's it. Truth is freedom. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and share this out because we can help people become free with the truth that God has given us. God bless.